Hello and welcome to a look at the manager for the Amiga, a game that was released by US Gold. If I'm not mistaken, this title is originally a German title, where it is known as a Bundesliga Manager or something to that effect. But of course, this being the English version, it features English teams and divisions and that kind of stuff. Hereford is not available in this particular title, so I went with one of my dad's favorite teams, Leicester. I know it's spelled Leicester, but don't worry about it. English is weird. So, as you can likely gather, this is a football manager game, and when you start up, you can choose which image you want to represent you as the manager of the four available. But because, of course, there's four images, that also implies that there could be potentially an option to play up to four players, which is actually the case. Once you have selected an image that you like to represent you, then you type in your name underneath that, and then you scroll through all the teams until you find the team that you want to manage, and then you get to start the game, and you have three game options for the actual gameplay. One season, which means that you start in Division 1, which of course at that time was the top division, and your goal is to win as many competitions and win the league and not get relegated and all that good stuff. If you choose to play a 3 season session, then you have to again play in first division and you have to stay in first division in order to complete that objective. If you get relegated, the game ends. Then, of course, much more interestingly, you have the continuous play where you pick a team, and whatever team you pick will be sent on to third division, and any player stats and whatnot will be adjusted accordingly. And then, of course, your aim is to climb through the divisions and win the league and the cups and the saucers and the forks and no mind. But you get the general idea. As the manager, you are, of course, in charge of certain things, and the overall skill level setting you have the choice of dictates how much you have to do and how much can be automated. And for me, just playing out this setting of two seems to be perfectly fine. You have finances to worry about, which is, of course, always the big issue. And then, of course, you have your squad to worry about. But beyond that, which is something I think was maybe not new, but definitely a not often seen option in football manager games up until this point, is the option to expand your stadium, improve it, add more seats, add more stands, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, I mean, that is again coming back to the financial situation. But I will return to that at the back end of this video because I think that is of some importance. You have various different screens you can go through in order to get various bits of information. I've been cutting through some screens showing various different things, the financial situation, obviously, the state of the stadium, the various different league tables, and then, of course, the players, training for them. And when you set up the players, you select who's joined the squad by left clicking on them, and right clicking will turn someone into a substitute. And of course, again, because this is an older game, you have two substitutes, not like the much more generous and much more fair five in modern football. Then you have the three defined tactics you can set. 4-4-2, which is considered to be defensive. 2-5-3, which is considered to be normal, and then 3-4-3, which is considered to be aggressive or offensive. And depending on the skill level, the computer will automatically assign different players to the different formations. But it is setting the team up as what is numerically the superior team. But that doesn't mean that it actually is. Because the way the stats for the different players are represented, form, skill, and fitness, but you get an average number extrapolated from those three. And that is the average number that the auto picking of players and placement informations will be defined by. So you can effectively have the computer saying, "Oh, you put this player in who's about to die from exhaustion. You can probably play the next 20 matches." So it's something that you have to be mindful of. Also, something equally important is the footing of the different players, because some of them are left-footed, some of them are right-footed, and some of them plays equally well with both feet. And of course, you want to put players which specialize with their right feet, right foot, whatever, on the right-hand side of the playfield, and so on and so on. And that is, as I said, something that the computer doesn't take into consideration. Once everything is set up as best as you can, it's time to hit the match day thing, which will show a box with the icons of the two different teams playing, and then down the bottom there will be a timer counting the minutes for the different halves. When something of interest happens, a box will pop up with the manager's image either on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side. That depends whether it's home games or away games. And then some animation of some description will play out showing what wiki is happening. When your manager's image is on the left-hand side, your team will always be attacking right, and when it's on the right-hand side, your team will always be attacking left, irrelevant of the game having two halves, which can be a bit initially wonky, but once you get used to it, it adds to readability, and I think that's why it was done in such a way. You get various pieces of information concerning your own team, but not the opposing team, which I think is a bit of a oddity. If your players get cards or get injured or whatnot, you will get that information. But for the opposing team, there's nothing. Not even who scored the goals, just that they scored a goal. And it would be nice if you, halfway through the match, would know that the opposing team had two players sent off, so you could adjust your squad with your substitutes accordingly if you felt like it. But as I said, that information has been omitted, which I think is a loss, to be honest. From a technical point of view, I think the presentation of the game is perfectly serviceable. You can identify what the different icons portray, and it gives you access to list upon list upon list of various different information that you may find important to have access to. I do find that there are certain bits of information I would have liked to have access to in a more streamlined way, but by and large, I think the graphical representation of the interface is perfectly serviceable. The action sequences are a bit over the top, and they definitely do not obey normal football rules. You will see passes being done between players that would be offside by a country mile, but yeah, it's part of the action esque ish, whatever you call it, part of it. So it works. Again, serviceable, nothing spectacular, but it can be somewhat exciting at least. We don't do music, so no music to talk about, and there's not a lot of sound effects, and they are what they need to be. Nothing spectacular, nothing special, and it doesn't really have to be. I mean, you are playing a manager game to manage, not to watch a movie. Well, you do in later games, but not a game of this age, at least. Something this game does well, which is something I suppose an awful lot of management games will do as well, is to portray the issues for being a small club in the lower divisions. Because, of course, in the lower divisions, the sponsors are not as plentiful and generous, and in order to attract more sponsors and more audience, you need to be performing well. But if you haven't got a strong team to begin with, you need to try and acquire players from other teams, which costs money you can't get because the sponsors are not interested and your audience is not showing up. So it becomes this unpleasant catch 22 where without the money to acquire certain things, you can't improve. And by not improving, you can't acquire the money to do the certain things you need to do to improve. And of course, that becomes even more pronounced once you get yourself promoted, because then you get into a division where the teams are significantly stronger and already established, and you come with your good team in the lower division, but below average team in the new division, and this struggle gets even more pronounced, of course, because you're playing against better teams. A reviewer who was notorious for never getting anything right, by the surname of Campbell, shot this game to pieces mainly due to the fact that it was yet another management game, which is about equivalent to smashing the next Lamborghini because it's just another car. Incredibly short sighted and not particularly uh, respectful of the material. I don't find this title to be the best management game ever made, but it's perfectly serviceable and it contains certain features which were not common for management games of this age. And of course, the ability to play up to 4 players is a nice little touch. On that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time. Bye bye for now.